Well, our pledge is to restore the link between pensions and earnings. I know it was the Conservative government 100 years ago that broke that link, but the Labour government for the last 13 years hasn't seen fit to restore it. Not only that, pensioners have dropped further and further into poverty because of other things, not just the fact that pensions aren't linked to earnings, but also things like fuel poverty. The cost of utilities has gone up, so that people who are the most elderly and the most vulnerable in society, who are in their homes an awful lot, feel so much the increased cost of the gas and electricity, and people have to choose between heating and eating, and that shouldn't happen. The other thing that's gone up massively in the last 13 years is the cost of council tax. It's effectively doubled, and that's another massive tax on pensioners. It's another huge hole in people's pension money at the end of every month. So that is why the Conservatives have pledged to restore that link between pensions and earnings so that pensioners do get a fair deal. The other thing we have pledged is that we will protect all the other things that pensioners have earned, the winter fuel allowance, the bus passes and the TV licences.
Absolutely. There's Liberal Democrat policy to actually restore that link between earnings and pensions. It goes just a little bit further because it says that we will restore a link to pensions between the earnings and the cost of living, whichever rises at the greatest amount. I think when I read this question, one of the things that was very clear at the end of it was that people should actually be aware of how we're going to pay for that. And I do know that we have a manifesto with numbers in, which is quite unusual. We've opened ourselves up in the Liberal Democrats to scrutiny on how we're going to pay for these things. Now, I don't think anybody is under any illusion that we are in quite a difficult position as far as where we've been left financially by previous governments. But the Liberal Democrats have pledged that one of their top priorities is to make sure that the pensioners of this country are given a fair deal.
Some of you might know that I set up and run a charity called Europe to Europe. And one of the groups that we help in some of the poorest and most vulnerable areas of Europe are old people. And I have to point out, first of all, that the premise of the question is not entirely accurate. Britain actually, on a balanced evaluation, an outside evaluation of our pension scheme, says that when you look at the variations in different pension schemes across Europe, we're actually in 5th place. Now, if we actually compare ourselves with some other countries in Europe, there are old people in some parts of the world that can't afford to pay their fuel bill at all, that can't afford to buy a loaf of bread every week on their state pensions, because there are many European countries, unlike ours, that have collapsed. For example, there are countries like Greece and Iceland and Hungary that in real terms don't exist at the moment because of the financial collapse. We're going to be the strongest country coming out of the recession, according to the OECD, and that's going to put us into a very strong position to plan forward. There are countries like the Irish Republic that cannot afford to pay anything at the moment. Many people are becoming unemployed, house prices are going down to their lowest levels, and interest rates are going up. That's not the case in Britain, so we can afford to plan forward. But in the UK, we're reforming the system to make the state pension simpler, fairer for women and carers, and more generous while remaining affordable. In my first early day motion, I will be lobbying for a rise of the basic pension to £170 a week. I think that will lift it above the poverty level, and that's necessary. And I'm very glad to hear that the Tories are going to protect all the measures which Labour has brought in to lift pensioners out of poverty.
The Chartered Institute of Public Finance and Accountancy says this year's budget for England will hit £10.2 billion. According to the government, 9.4 billion should be available for personal and social services in England this year. Just over 700 million of this is funded through specific and special grants. But the vast majority of the 8.7 billion comes through local government's mind-bogglingly complicated standard spending assessment, SSA. SSA signal the amount of council spending to which government is prepared to contribute grant support. They apply to services such as education, social services, police, fire, highways and the environment, and are used to allocate the revenue support grant, business rates and council tax. Although each major council-run service has its own SSA, councils are given a grant allocation which they can spend on services that take priority. Overspending on social services can translate into higher council taxes. However, since the ministers still have some control over the council tax levels, spending over the SSA on social services often means underspending on other council services such as libraries, rubbish collection, street cleansing and on our roads. With the demand for services increasing, people living longer and higher expectations for quality of life, many social service costs are out of the council's control. The SSA simply hasn't kept pace with these pressures, and successive Labour and Conservative governments have failed to address this issue.
As an independent candidate, I wouldn't have to toe the party line, but it seems eminently sensible for the link between pensions and earnings to be restored, so as to pensions don't fall further and further behind. But we obviously have to be careful because we can't increase them constantly too much, otherwise we'll get greater and greater into debt. I happen to think it's worth drawing a parallel between pay review and pension review, and by that I mean where there are extreme examples, the fire service, teachers, nurses in recent years have been the subject of pay review, and I think that should be done for pensions. I think we should look carefully at how other countries operate their pension system and pick out the best way. It's a very complex issue, and you need experts on it to, I know it's sort of local government job, but you have to make measured decisions, and we need people to bring forward recommendations to make the best pension arrangements for as many of the population as possible.